like I said, man, just my uncle Carl Evans Sr. Started this picnic, man, 35, 36 years ago, and you know, having the opportunity now to kind of move into that elder role and taking on those responsibilities, it's a blessing, and to be able to continue on that tradition. So actually, like I said, really looking forward to it. Man, this is a, like I said, Father's Day weekend here. Also, we are still in the month of June. It is Black Music Month as well. And man, you see thousands of protests on this weekend as well. The No Kings protest taking part all across the country. You know, the scene that I saw, and I didn't get to make it down to the plaza, but it looked like there were thousands of people down there gathering and you know, making their voices be heard. And so this is just one aspect of citizenship, is being allowed to protest. And so it is good to see folks galvanizing in that kind of a way. So I want to you know, give a shout out to those who have participated. But like I alluded to, we have a very, I'm sorry, Brian.
I don't know, I just was silent. I wish people were, never mind. we're this excited and in the streets during the November elections, it's all.
Yeah, well, you know, like I said, some people had to
see it to believe it.
Yeah, or F around and find out.
Right.
So, you know, that's where we're at. And so, you know, once again, we got to take what we can get at this point. And so, you know, like I said, glad to see folks are at least galvanizing in some sort of a way. And so, speaking of galvanizing, our guest here at the table, Brother Spark Bookhart, a returning guest. I want to welcome him back to Changing Narratives. And Spark is the founder of the Parent Power Lab, where he's building a movement of empowered parents ready to reshape public education from the ground up. Spark, excuse me, Spark is also the coach of Numbers, a Little League baseball team of first through third graders that incorporates math tutoring directly into practice, bridging the gap between academic success and extracurricular engagement. Today we'll catch up on what's going on with the Parent Power Lab, dig a little bit deeper into the concept around numbers, which I love, and just catch up with a brother who has dedicated his life to public education and is one of those who is what we like to call grassroots with the work that he is doing. So welcome back to the program, Brother Spark.
Community activist.
Yeah.
Community activist. I appreciate you guys.
You activated the community.
Appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys having me. It's always good to be here, changing narratives, and able to kind of just, you know, share some insight on work that's happening from the ground. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, you know, with we'll start off with the Parent Power Lab and the work that you've been doing over there for the last 5-6 years. And so we'll talk about and kind of educate our audience just an overall purview of what the Parent Power Lab is, and then we'll talk about the way in which it has evolved. So just kind of educate our audience on what the Parent Power Lab is.
Oh yeah, the Parent Power Lab exists to really give parents the tools, share tools with parents, and because we believe that parents are the missing link to the challenges that we have in public education. I think that we have an environment right now where we have totally disempowered our parents from understanding their role in their child's education, and we seek to really transform that way of looking at parent engagement. We don't think that parents should be involved in their children's education process. We think that parents must be involved in their children's education process, and not from an outside-in type of manner, but from the perspective as a real partner in the education process. So, you know, when we first started, we were looked at as those, those outside rebel rousing parents that were, here to make noise. That never was what we wanted to do. Our aim and our intent was always to partner with schools, partner with school communities to understand and place parents in the process of building a powerful school community. And I'm happy to report that we have not changed, but we've evolved to a place where we can find school partnerships to really take a look at what we're doing to see that it's not we're not here to undermine school communities. We're here to build and support school communities. And like I've told you all before, that when you leave the talents and the gifts and the assets that parents bring to the table outside of the door of the school community, what you do is you hurt the school community. So our whole goal is to bring those outside gifts, talents into the school community in order to strengthen public schools and public education in general.
Okay. And so you started the Parent Power Lab, and when I say you, I'm referring to your team as well. So, I know that you're very intentional in letting folks know that this is not just a you thing. Right. Since you guys started this process, and talk to us about the way in which the training has evolved from that first group of parents that you had that intensive 3-4 month program. Talk to us about the way in which it's evolved to what you guys are doing.
Yeah, so it's important to understand that the motivation was so much that parents didn't know about public education. Mm-hmm. And we started really as just like a motivated movement to give parents access to information that was seemingly hidden or locked away from them. And then so I'm just giving you background to say that we didn't really start as an organization. We started as a movement of parents that really wanted to shed light on the historical factors that got us in the place that we're in. And what that did, over years and years and years of doing that work as just a project, if you will, a project that we were all engaged in, it evolved into actual trainings, actual capacity building for parents. And of course with that came with folks that saw value in it and said, hey, we can see this as an organization. We can fund this type of work. We can, you have to actually build an organization. So we have this continual evolution from, just having curiosity to spreading, to learning a lot from those curiosities, to spreading those curiosities into actual training, and moving those training into actual parent capacity building and advocacy, and then moving all that work into a formal organization. So it's been an evolution, and there's never a straight line to the goal. It's always ebbs and flows, peaks, valleys, on that path. So to answer your question, it's a long way of getting to it, but to answer your question, we created an intensive project coming out called the Parent Organizing Institute. And we learned a lot from that. Parents really responded. Parents really looked at it as it was almost like a grad level certificate in parent organizing and parent advocacy. And what we realized from our, from our surveys, our feedback, is parents loved it, but they didn't have a ramp to get on. They were just, it's basically like the treadmill is running at 10, you know what I mean? And we say, hop on.
Okay, yes.
So we had to dial back, and we had to start giving it out in smaller bites, where as the Parent Organizing Institute became like the apex of our training and capacity building. So what we've developed is a short intro to us called Jumpstart Training, and then we have what we call the Power Boost experience, and then we still have the Parent Organizing Institute, but what I'm saying is that now it's more of a natural arc into parent engagement. So parent engagement and parent power for our parents. So that's the long roundabout answer to your question.
Right. Well, no, and I think it's important for folks to understand that this is a process, and it's an ongoing process, and for an organization to recognize that it has to be fluid. You can't be static and feel like, oh, we figured this out, and this is the way we're going to do things moving forward.
Correct.
You have to be flexible, especially when you're talking about dealing with parents. And so, I think that that's important to get that across to our audience. And when we talk about patience, and so for, to give our audience kind of an idea of how many parents have, gone through the Parent Power Lab experience since you guys have started. And just a little bit of housekeeping. For anyone that wants to find information, you can go to parentpowerlab.com to get information on the Parent Power Lab. Okay, so it's parentpowerlab.com. But yes, so talk to us about the numbers of parents that have went through the process so far.
Yeah, so like I said, we've been doing this for coming up on formally as an organization. We've been doing this for about 5 years, and then prior to that, as just a community project, we have been doing it for much more time than that.
Mm-hmm.
So we've literally touched the lives of thousands of parents who in turn touched the lives of tens of thousands of children. In our current iteration as an actual organization, 501c3 nonprofit, we've literally impacted hundreds of parents that's come through our various trainings, our various events, our various activities, and in that, in organizing, we have a set of principles, and these principles are like oracles, and these oracles have been passed down through the canons of organizing tradition for a long time.
Okay.
And one of those, what I call organizing oracles, or oracles of organizing, is the action is in the reaction. You know what I mean? So we're always and constantly shifting based on what appears, what shows up, what comes to us. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We could be fighting a policy, vigorously attacking a policy at a particular school district or school, and guess what? The district reacts and says, you know what, we want to enact that policy, and we need your help in order to create that policy. That's what requires that adjustment. So, to answer your question, literally hundreds of parents have been through our various training programs, and not only that, I'm including in that number the parent that rings our phone or sends us an email and says, this horrendous thing has happened to my child. Can we get support on it? What should we do, basically? Mm-hmm. What should we do? And those are the activities that really inspire us and give parents opportunities to lead. Because you can't do this. No one parent can do it by themselves, and if they could, I would have done it a long time.
Right. Well, and it's good to see, like you said, the tentacles are far-reaching. And so we are actually up against our first break. So if you're just tuning in, you're listening to 90.1 FM KKFI, Kansas City Community Radio. This is Changing Narratives with Brother Jay and Brother Brown and our guest, Spark Bookhart. And we'll be back after this quick break.
Jaws of Justice Radio investigates how we can achieve justice from a system.
As everyone is out there protesting the No King protest, very important that we hold on to that very basic right, at least, as it's being threatened. The governor activating the National Guard and really trying to agitate folks. And it wouldn't surprise me if they don't have agitators in these crowds, but once again, it's important that the people speak.
We know how y'all do.
Absolutely, and so like I said, I'm glad to see the activity that is taking place. But for anyone that is just tuning in, we have a guest in studio with us, Spark Bookhart from the Parent Power Lab. And before we went to break, we were just kind of catching up on how and the ways in which the Parent Power Lab has evolved and the things that you all have learned through this process. And so for our audience, if you had to pick one or two success stories from the Parent Power Lab, whether that success was learning what not to do, but just one or two things that you would see, cite as success stories for the Parent Power Lab.
Well, I think it's important to understand that we like to insert ourselves into the conversation. I think that's the most important part of the work that we do. We like to influence thought. We like to do that from a parent perspective. And, a lot of people cite, our voice, our vigorous voice, in the challenge we had, a little over a year ago, 2 years ago, I guess, about the school, around the school closure battle, inserting our voice there to really say and suggest that we understand that public education has been under attack. We understand that public education has been underfunded, primarily because black and brown children predominate the public institutions. We understand the harm that's done to those institutions. So we understand that there are need to have budget considerations, etc. And we have to make tough choices. But those choices should be made by an informed public process, an informed public decision-making process.
Okay.
And we think that was not being done as it was proposed. So we vigorously opposed that, and the superintendent, our current superintendent at that time, who was new, really listened, really partnered with community, and really kind of went back to the drawing board to assess, the complaints of not only ourselves and others that was working in this process. And I truly believe that it was the impetus of bringing a broad-based coalition to in Kansas City around public education that ultimately got the school bond passed. The school bond passed this past April. So we, along with others, take great umbrage in the fact that we were able to shift that discussion. We were able to be a part of shifting that discussion and making it better making better decisions and outcomes for children, particularly black children, particularly brown children, in the core of our city. We often say that you can't have a world-class city without a world-class education institution at the heart of it.
Yes.
And we really push on that. And you can't have a world-class education institution at the center of any community if that education institution ignores the voice and the passions and concerns of its parent core. So, since that was a long one, I'll say that was long, but that's quite major.
Yes.
Quite major, and I think that we went a long way to shaping that discussion, doing a lot of behind the scenes work, a lot of training of parents to understand what a bond actually means, what it actually does. We hadn't, in recent history, hadn't even had a question of a public bond to fund education in the heart of our city. Mm-hmm. So a lot of education had to go forth in order to get this bond passed. And we're extremely proud of the district and district leadership and their work, and not only the district, but the 9 charter institutions that were a part of it and that were basically out to make collective change happen as it relates to our education institutions in this city. Now, I've always said though that buildings don't teach children, so there's still a lot of work to do, and we're engaged and committed to continuing that work.
Right, and then we are now about 30 minutes past the hour 5 o'clock. So if you're just tuning in, you are listening to 90.1 FM KKFI, Kansas City Community Radio. And thank you very much for that answer, Brother Spark. And one of the things that you mentioned, when you talk about being informed, and when you go to the parentpowerlab.com, what you'll see is study, build, and then act. And so, I don't want to just harp on this, but I do think that it's important when we talk about being persistent and having patience and trusting the process.
Right.
Just how important that is for people to understand that the Parent Power Lab is not about, just quick answers, or there's going to be this, we're going to just turn the ship, overnight. It's something that you have to be committed to and intentional about.
Absolutely. What you rattled off or expressed there are the core tenets and the core principles of our organization. Study, build, act. Study because you have to know and understand a challenge, a problem before you have to know not only understand the challenge, the problem, you have to understand the solution, you have to understand the history of said problem, you have to do deep analysis, root cause analysis of how a problem exists, and that only can be done through study. So what is the foundation of the work that we do is always, kind of like the Sankofa concept that everybody knows. You have to go back and to understand and let that inform what we do going forward. So study is our very first pillar and principle, and then build. Build is saying that, look, you can't do this by yourself. You can't do it because you are one pissed off parent. Excuse my language. You can't do it because you just are one parent, or you're one parent that have a lot of capacity. That goes against or flies in the face of our principle of organizing, and it's to say that you can do it, but you cannot do it alone. You have to do it in community with others that are engaged in the process of thinking with you. And then act. And act is the public display of action that actually moves the issue one way or another. A lot of people focus on the act, but we focus on the act only after the study and build,
exactly.
and as it has occurred.
Right. And that, like you said, in this world of instant gratification, a lot of us just want to jump in and go right to the act. But going along with the theme when we're talking about study, and also with it being Father's Day weekend. So talk to us about the idea for numbers, and how that, I'm sure, you being an involved parent, and your kids getting at that age where they're going to be in sports, and so it's like, okay, like a lot of parents, you know what, I'll be one of the coaches and help out. And so talk to us about, how the idea for numbers came to you, and of course, like I said, I know you don't want to take all of the credit because it takes a team, but then how, you were able to bring that idea to fruition, and, how it's working out so far.
Being a father and playing a sport, at a pretty competitive level, when it's time for your children to play a sport, most fathers they kind of are patient, with their child. And I didn't necessarily want to coach. I'm involved in education. I'm involved in public education and how we can make public education better. One thing that we couldn't deny or can't deny is that the worst outcomes in public education, as it relates to academic outcomes, there's one cohort in public education that has a worse outcome, and that's black boys. Black boys have if you look at today, they have the lowest reading scores, they have the lowest math scores, we looked at the process of you know what? We have to have a full court press, all hands-on approach to solutions. And yes, my son was engaged in sports, and I kind of just watched him and really thought about, hey, if I was asked to coach actually.
Okay.
I asked to coach by a former coach of his, and I said, yeah, I was thinking to myself, if I'm a coach, it's going to be a totally different way of approaching coaching. And what I wanted to do was figure out a way that we can incorporate math and basic skills into our everyday program. And that's the concept of numbers that we're doing.
Okay.
Talked to some good friends, recruited a math coach
Right.
that's sitting here with us, and that math coach really helped me conceptually think through how we can incorporate math and basic skills into a baseball extracurricular program that's not heady, that's not drudgery, but actually reinforces those skills and actually play some decent baseball. And you know, we started last fall testing it out, and you know, it was pretty I would say dismal results at best, but we
On the baseball side.
on the baseball side, and we had some very critical engagement on the math side. And what we wanted to figure out was how to make baseball and math just dynamic. And I think it just came together because of the commitment of dads. And I'm just going to say dads, as far as on the field support and coaching, and then just parents in general that supports the organization by making sure that, number one, understanding that it's not just a baseball program, and number two, making sure that your sons are there and present and participate at all times. So I'll let Brown talk about it in a second, but I just had a concept that, you know, that I continue to say. He probably rolled his eyes when I say it, but if we can take a kid from first grade through our program all the way to high school, we would hope that, I mean, our moonshot is we would hope that they could be ready for calculus because they spent all that time in this one, right? Calculus instead of, you know, the basic math trajectory.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I don't roll my eyes at it. I mean, again, and that's the thing. You know, if we orient that compass and then we get them to where they can test out of algebra, or we get them where we know that if you came through this program, you're going to learn algebra, not just pass the class.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of levels to it. And again, the good thing is that the parents and so far the players have been committed to the process. And we haven't had, it hasn't, like Spark said, been drudgery. Working with them on their basic skills. And then just on the recent flip, adding a math equation to their jersey that equals their numbers. Just those subtle ways and direct ways that we can reinforce basic skills and have our young people arriving at high school so that they can truly be able to make solid academic choices. I think also is key in this process. So for example, if you've never done good in math, it's hard for you to say that a teacher is good or bad or not the right one for you. And so we need to make sure that our students and parents can make informed choices, especially once they decide to set the barometer on the compass on the direction that they want to go. Then, you know, okay, you can have an easy math teacher if you want to be an artist. But if you want to be an engineer, you can't take Miss Johnson because, you know, that's the class that the athletes take.
Right.
You know, and so again, just that realization and really wanting education to work for our young people and them to want to work forward.
And it's awesome. Also, in years and years of observation of education as a parent organizer, Brown and his years not only as a classroom teacher, but just engaged in this education space, we see and we understand what the problem and the challenge is. And the problem and the challenge is we don't master the basics.
Yes.
We don't master the fundamentals. There's no significant and unrelenting pressure on mastering the fundamentals, and it really haunts our young people as they matriculate into higher and higher grades because they've never mastered the fundamentals. And we just want to figure out how we do that mastery at these younger ages and have their comfortability with numbers.
Right.
Not to have a pun, but their comfortability with numbers unlocks the curiosity to understand and see math all around them and how it relates. And what better way to do that in a game that is at its origin over 100 years old, obsessed with actual numbers.
For sure. And so we are actually up against our second break. So if you're just tuning in, you're listening to 90.1 FM KKFI, Kansas City Community Radio. This is Changing Narratives with Brother Jay and Brother Brown and our guest Spark Bookhart, and we'll be back after this quick break. Feeling them today, and I want to welcome everyone back to our program. Before we went to break, having a conversation with Spark about the baseball team numbers and the concept behind that. And so for our audience, just kind of tell them what a practice looks like since you guys have incorporated the Math Tutoring into the actual baseball practice.
I don't know if your listeners are aware, but I'm sure they are. When you get a bunch of 7 and 8 year olds together for an hour and a half, you have to have them occupied at all times.
Okay.
So we have about 18 players on our team. We break them up in groups of 3 or 4, and we have a series of stations, maybe 3 or 4 stations, and 2 or 3 of those stations will be actual baseball skills stations, and one of those stations is a math station. And by the time practice is over, everyone will have cycled through all of those stations, and we'll have gained the requisite skill work that we require for that day, and the requisite math work that we require for that day. Our math coach, who I'll say, is responsible for the math understanding and totally controls what happens in the math station, and we confer after practice on how it was going, what's happening, and like I said, we are building this out so that it's not just when you really, even though it's difficult, especially in this age of youth sports, we look at our secret or magic pill or magic sauce is to get the young people to come back every single year so that they're building on top of what they learned the year before. And unfortunately, youth sports right now is all about the hot team or
Right.
on this team, that
Travel team.
travel team, so they jump around and they're never able to build a community. I think what we want to do is we've designed our program to kind of like eschew that, shoot that cause.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's awesome. When we talk about, obviously you want to win as well. And so
far so good.
Yeah, and so talk to us about because you made an important point, and I think it applies on the field and off when we're talking about commitment to the fundamentals. And so for your team and with your experience, and I'm not asking you to measure it, but by your estimation, how do you think that the math, incorporating that, ties in with the actual, baseball skills and how that has work togeted in your example specifically? Do you feel like there's a correlation to you guys being 6-0?
No question. No question it's a correlation because you get a better understanding and appreciation of the game. You know the distance between the bases. You know
Right.
the distance. Math is very practical, and how I'll say it in this fashion, and Coach Brown, how he incorporates math understanding and math concepts into our practices. So what it does, it brings the game more alive. If you ask me, if you ask our young people, we do a team huddle at the end, and we ask what went well in practice. It's not uncommon for a child to talk about what happened at the math station.
Yeah.
So I absolutely know that that the incorporation of the mathematical concepts that we do and how we incorporate the practice it leads to. Interestingly enough, we never talk about wins and losses.
Okay.
Not one iota. We talk about getting better every single time we touch the field and doing the little things right and getting that, getting better every time we touch the field, coupled with doing the little things right. All that leads to wins. So we sit here in a winless season. Knock on wood. I don't like talking on.
Yeah, I got you.
We sit here in a winless season, but I don't think we spent. I know as far as our communication with the team, we spent zero time talking about wins and losses.
Okay.
Now amongst the kids, I'm sure that they talk about wins and losses, but amongst the team, amongst the coaches, we talk about the development of these young boys and moving them to the next threshold. Making it a challenge for them to stretch to the next threshold, and that's every single week.
Right. And so Brown, briefly touched on it, but I think it's such a cool idea. I want to talk a little bit more about the idea of the jersey numbers and put in the equation and, talk to our audience about that.
Well, absolutely. Again, the idea is to make it participatory, not only for the players with each other, but also for the parents and the fans and the other kids that might be taking advantage of the game and practices as well. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've seen outside of what we're doing with the actual players is being able to see how we can corral those other auxiliary kids that are showing up to practice with mom and dad.
Okay.
And coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's just one of those other unintended good games that we've been able to see. Original question again. I had that on my brain.
The equation. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So again, that's that normalizing what we're doing, and when we're talking about a campaign, we're steadily campaigning, with our jerseys. And so I mean, if you look at a professional jersey, like I was looking, Oklahoma City has Loves.
Yeah, exactly.
on their uniforms, and so now we have a multiplication or a division equation.
Okay.
And so someone will see that, and then they'll know for sure that 54 divided by 6 is 9.
Okay. Right. Okay.
And and so just that keeping it in the air like that also makes sure that they understand it's a part of it, because they haven't been on so many teams that they just know that math is not something that don't normally happen.
Yeah.
So they're still 7, 8, 9. So they're gonna go to their next team like, y'all ain't doing no math over here.
Right. They're setting that expectation.
Yeah. So I think it's that other thing of just making it where it's ubiquitous within what we're doing.
Right. And when we talk about it being participatory, because I want to make sure I understand the concept with the jersey number.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an equation that equals to their jersey number, and they get to select the equation. How does that work?
Well, we went through an exercise,
right?
Just doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that's what gave me the idea. I didn't originally, we were just practicing, ad hocly, like, okay, just again that participatory thing, like, hey Jay, what's your jersey number? Mm-hmm. All right, and then so someone else, hey, think of an equation that equals 22.
Okay.
And so we were generally having that conversation, so they didn't get a chance just getting church to press to choose a particular number that equaled a particular equation that equaled their number that day. Mm-hmm. But it was an exercise that we went through, and that was one of those things where the student was like, yeah, I didn't realize math could be so much fun.
Right.
And we were just talking about jersey numbers.
And we didn't enter into the season thinking, we're gonna make every jersey number an equation. It happened in the process. Organically in the process. He's at the math station. He's talking about what's your jersey number. All right, the activity created so much energy. I mean, it was just like, oh man, we should do that.
Right.
We don't have quote unquote team sponsors, but we are a math, organization. You know what I mean? So it was born.
And I think, like you said, it's layered because, when you talk about changing their mindset around numbers and concepts, very, very important. Creating engagement, so important. And just like you said, one of those things that when you have some activity, things happen, good things happen. And so just wanted to share that with our audience. And we are now getting to about 5 minutes before the hour of 6 o'clock. I want to encourage everyone, please stay tuned at the top of the hour for Rootswise Reggae. And so before we get out of here, I want to let everyone know to go to parentpowerlab.com for more information on the Parent Power Lab, which is a non-for-profit organization, so you can go there and donate as well. But just get information on the work that they are doing and the impact that they are having on the conversation related to public education here in Kansas City. And so before we get out of here, Brother Spark, I mentioned earlier you have a team of people. I'm not asking you to name everybody, but I want to make sure that we let everyone know that this is not a solo effort from Spark Bookhart, that he is a member of a team that is putting in work over at the Parent Power Lab. So anything in closing before we get up out of here, Brother Spark?
No, I just appreciate you guys having us in and talking a little bit about what we do, and just encourage anybody if they want more information to reach out to us. We're very accessible, and we invite your feedback.
Okay, thank you for coming and joining us again. I want to always encourage our audience and let you guys remember we are now into the summer reading program through the Kansas City Public Library System. Make sure you get your young learners over there taking advantage of that and get the opportunity to earn a free book. And then just be exposed to a lot of the things that are going on over at the library. And so,
Any branch?
Yeah, any branch. But the Digital Media Lab is at the Southeast branch,
Right.
Where you can get that hands-on special engagement from Brother Brown. He comes.
Got 100 kids at the door on Monday. Jason.
Exactly. Teach me my timetable. But yeah, so like I said, please thank everyone, all of the fathers, wishing everyone a happy Father's Day this weekend. Encourage everyone, take care of the fathers like y'all do for the mothers on the Mother's Day weekend. We'll be back next week with another program.
Got a slam.
Right.
Somebody needs to say Happy Father's Day to me.
And I'm Susan Sanders.
And this is take two. 2 takes and moving.